The Walking Dead season 7, episode 7 is over, but we're just getting started here on The Walking Dead live post-show recap. And now here's the two guys who are ready to iron everything out from tonight. I'm Rob Cesternino. Here's Alex Kidwell. Alex, how are you?
They're good, Rob. Yeah, I've got mine set on, I don't know, permanent press. What about you?
Yeah, I've got mine set on Monopoly iron.
Yeah, well, that one's a little less scary. I think you could only just get like a little corner of someone's face with that guy.
Yes. All right. We are here live on postshowrecaps.com to talk about everything from the episode from tonight, which was called Sing Me a Song?
Sing me a song, Rob.
Sing Me a Song. There we are. And we got to see Carl serenade Negan. Negan show up at Alexandria. Carl's crazy plan. Everybody almost was in the mix here tonight after the Tara-centric episode last week. Alex.
Yep. The ball's beginning to be rolling slightly, maybe downhill. It's at least rolling on flat ground now, I would say. So we're moving somewhere. And,
yes.
Yeah, you're my sunshine, Rob.
Yes. So a lot to talk through here tonight. Hashtag PS Recaps. I want to get your questions here. And really what feels like a setup for next week's finale of season 7 of The Walking Dead, or a half season finale of season 7 of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be probably pretty explosive because that's how it's kind of been lately. Like the bookends, like you and Josh talked about on the feedback show this week, really does seem to be, certainly season 6, season 7, that seems to be the mold now.
Yep. So I was watching, the first minute or two of The Talking Dead, and boy, Chris Hardwick really giving Carl a pat on the back in terms and Chandler Riggs, a pat on the back in terms of, wow, is Carl the bravest kid ever or what? Wow, what a great job by Carl. Alex, I don't understand. Like, we talked about how, stupid Carl and his plan, but then, he gets the shot to take out Negan and then he freezes.
Yeah, the idea that this was great is just revisionist history at best. I mean, the idea that Negan did what he did, that defies logic. Like, you can't expect Negan to just take a shine to Carl the way he seems to have. All logic and all knowledge of Negan indicates that if you pull this kind of a move, you're getting Lucille'd pretty quickly, or someone you care about, or something like that. So there's no reason to think that, based on the information Carl had, that this was like, way to go, kid. Like, no, not at all.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on here with Carl, that, he has this big plan. I'm going to go there. I'm going to kill Negan. He's got an Uzi. There's Negan. And then he just sort of like does nothing. I don't know if like Negan just sort of like outsmarts him or if he just froze in the moment. But then he's gone from like, then he got captured by Negan, and then he's totally like this little docile, like, I understand like that Rick got broken, but all of a sudden here's Carl and he's just like a little lapdog for Negan.
Well, I think it speaks to the fact that, as Negan said, sometimes we forget how young you are, kid. Like, he tries to act and, like the adult and put on Rick's hat and play the big boy game. But when push comes to shove, he's still like 12 or 13. And when he actually he sees a thing in his head, he envisions it going away and he's going to come back and be the conquering hero. And then I think this is another one of those situations where reality does not match expectations. And he quickly realizes, like, oh, what did I think was going to happen? Oh, maybe I'm not, everything I thought I was. That's a humbling moment for a kid that seems to be in a pretty good spot before this. He's got a new girlfriend. He's got, he's found a gun. He snuck past these big dumb guys. So yeah, he's thinking he knows what he's doing until he doesn't.
I guess that's the problem. And so Negan has, certainly taken a shine to Carl. He likes having him around. What do you think of Negan tonight? A lot of Negan again here in season 7. Spent a lot of time with him behind the scenes, a lot of time of him talking with Carl. We'll get into all of the Negan drama, but you still liking Negan after tonight?
I mean, personally, I really am. And I feel like I understand the people who are not, who are very frustrated and are like, oh, this was so, like that moment where he's kissing baby Judith on the forehead. Like, I just couldn't even like stand that. Like, I get that. At the same time, I thought it was kind of cool. We learned a bit about the Savior Society now. And I find it very interesting, even if it is, in many ways abhorrent. Like, as someone who's interested by history, just in general, like, the world crashed, right? And it's like, okay, start from square one again. And when you look at like, how the world progressed the first time, it's like people were in little kind of roving groups, and then they came together finally and built some cities. Like you had like Greek city-states. And then eventually those city-states made contact with each other. But it wasn't until like Alexander the Great comes through, who happens to be my namesake, by the way,
Wow.
that like he, like takes over everything and like remakes a thing in his image. And the only way that like a country can form like that is you get everyone under a big group, all following the same societal laws or rules or whatever you want to call them. So when Negan says we are bringing civilization to the new world, like it's easy to interpret that as like, oh, what a crazy thing for a cult leader to say. But there's also this weird side where it's like, in a way he is, because all these people were scattered and chaotic and broken. And now he's brought them together and given them a unified purpose. And he's got vegetable point system and all kinds of stuff set up. So it's interesting, right? I mean, he's not altogether evil.
Yeah. Did Alexander the Great give free vegetables with dinner?
Well, I don't know, but I do know, like, the history books look at him like he's this great, great guy. I mean, I'm getting named after him in the modern time. And this is a guy who everywhere he went, he named a city Alexandria. Like, I'm sure his soldiers didn't treat people kindly. Like, they ransacked and pillaged and stuff. So history belongs to the winners, Rob. I think that's the element I'm trying to play here, is that Negan looks bad to us right now. But I think when you really compare him to, like, people who have been in a similar spot, like, Germans following Hitler, or, whatever you want to look at, like, people do rally around a person that you wouldn't see them doing in times of crisis, because fear is such a powerful motivator.
Right. So in the history books, so the first president of Negantopia will be the great Negan.
Right. Yeah. And then I think the interesting element is who does, I think every time you look at these kinds of characters, or, like Roman emperors or whatever, once they get established with their power, they then need a successor. And I'm wondering if that's what Negan has his eye on Carl on for. I mean, this is just speculation on my part. But Negan doesn't have a kid, and Negan needs to, every ruler wants to leave their empire in good hands. And I do wonder if maybe that's a bit of his interest with Carl, is he sees a young version of himself, possibly.
Boy, this is a long con here for Negan, that he's looking at Carl to succeed him here in the sanctuary.
It's pure speculation on my part, but why else wouldn't he kill him or maim him or do something? And now he's like, take him on a tour and
why
show
didn't
him
he
the
kill
way of the
Daryl?
world. Well, because Daryl's going to make a good soldier. I mean, he explained the Daryl and the Rick thing, but Carl doesn't serve a purpose for him right now, unless he wants to groom Carl to be something. That's all I can think of.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think he likes his rad ass, badass eye. He likes that.
Definitely true. Yeah. And I'm sure Carl also serves as an interesting focal point for his dominion over Rick, and his dominion over Rick, by extension, his dominion over all of Alexandria. If he somehow has Carl responding to him in a way that makes Rick uncomfortable and more willing to do Negan's bidding, that's probably only good for him.
Mm-hmm. But do you find it odd that Carl is like willing to break in with an Uzi, telling Negan, I'm going to kill you. You might as well jump out the window because I'm going to kill you anyway. But then is just like sort of just then goes along with Negan everywhere he goes like a puppy.
Yeah, well, it's like he keeps Negan like brings him down and then builds him back up just enough for him to like think it's weakness on Negan's part, I think. But Carl's just so inexperienced at this game that Negan's playing, where Negan is just like feigning weakness to the point where Carl like finds his attitude again, and then he's like, all right, kid, let's go for a ride. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's giving him like life lesson after life lesson here. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So we also got to see a lot of what's going on with the politics of Negan's concubine. And we got to see all of these women that are Negan's wives. He has so many different wives, Alex. I tweeted earlier tonight that I would gladly podcast about VH1's Negan of Love. I think it would be a very exciting show. And we got the saga of Mark and Amber. Something went down with Mark and Amber. I guess Amber cheated on Negan with Mark.
Yeah, and I kind of read it as a bit of maybe a Dwight-esque situation where like here's a couple that found the saviors that was probably together pre-Negan, and the way to make the arrangement, like he probably offered him some kind of ultimatum, because he offered her the choice for her and Mark and her mom to all go back to work at like some other place. And she was like, no, not that. And it seemed like she knew that the consequence was going to be Mark's face. So, but she still chose that, which makes me
Yeah.
think that, Negan kind of maybe offered him a choice. Like, well, you three, you can go like work in the zombie moat fields, or you can be my wife, and then Mark gets to work with groceries.
Yeah, well, I mean, what could the jobs be? Maybe it's like something really boring for like, how would you like to go balance my books in my accounting department? How about that job? No, Negan, anything but that. Anything, please, whatever. Please, don't make me do all the accounting. Well, somebody's got to do it. No. So she did not want to take Negan up on any of his other jobs.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to go with the iron instead, but I appreciate the offer.
Yeah. No, so that's Negan's thing. At least we get the backstory on what happened to Dwight.
Yep, I think it is very safe to say at this point that is indeed what happened to Dwight. First time we meet Dwight, no scars. And the next time we meet Dwight, he's got this mysteriously identical mark to Mark.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think pretty safe bet.
Yeah. So then we ended up later on in the episode having a conversation between Sherry and Dwight, where Dwight said, "Okay, what happened? So you sold out Amber to Negan," and she said, "No, that's not what happened." Did you have a different read of how this all went down?
I mean, she totally kind of did, right? But at the same time, I mean, what else can she do? And he's like framing it in a way where I think this whole scene to me just illustrated like the growing rift between a couple that used to be in love, right? Like how they're just further and further off of the same page in terms of the events of their lives, and they're spending less time together, and he's having to watch her make out with Negan. And it reminds me of that last conversation where they're talking about, well, at least we're alive. And you begin to wonder, like, at what cost? Like, what kind of a life? Like, wouldn't you have been better off just, like, even if you weren't safe, even if there was no guarantee of waking up the next day, like, wouldn't it have been better for you and the woman you love to just go off into the sunset, the two of you with your unscarred face, her not being a slave to Negan's whims? I mean, so it does raise that question again, where it's like, we made a choice, and I think we may have chosen wrong.
Yeah. Negan's a little bit like a Jabba the Hutt, that he sort of like has like Princess Leia like chained up at his bedside and just ready to go.
Yeah, and he's making Dwight act like Salacious Crumb, just sitting there and like, "Hey, Dwight, what do you think about that?" Like,
Well, you knew that guy's name. Wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's more like R2-D2 just serving drinks on his barge.
Yeah, well, that's Daryl. Daryl's the one with the cocktail tray. Drinks, cigars, cigarettes.
Yeah. So did Sherry definitely put the note underneath the door to Daryl's cell?
Had to be Sherry, right?
Yeah, it had to be.
Who else is trying to hook Daryl up like that? Like, Dwight seems somewhat sympathetic, but he's also not, I think, going to bat for Daryl. And Sherry, I think, seems like the person who's closest to her breaking point and has the means and the access.
Yeah. Negan has sort of like a weird dress code for his wives that like they all just have to be like sort of like parading around in like a black mini dress. Like, it seems like there's a lot of different uniforms at Negan's house. So it's like the prisoners, they get like a letter. Women are sort of dressed all in sort of like a default black mini dress.
When I see you, I want it to be perennially at a cocktail party.
Yeah, dress like it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So yeah, that's sort of like a very strict dress code. Or maybe there's not. Maybe it's just like, hey, I don't want Negan to think I'm letting myself go.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think it was very, very weird. I mean, the whole thing is weird because we know enough now to know like Negan has never hit any of them. But they're all still terrified of him. And that just goes to show why Negan has, in many ways, the control he has. I mean, that level of fear, again, like, it's in The Prince, the Machiavellian book about how to, rule and how to, gain power. I mean, it's better to be feared than loved. And Negan really embodies that. I mean, people bend the knee.
I thought that was out of The Godfather.
Well, there too. But the bottom line is they'd rather bend the knee than risk the iron. And you're seeing that across the board pretty much. And then you look at the other side and you begin to understand why why it works. Because tonight alone, we saw 4 different Alexandrians with 4 different plans to undermine Rick. And so Negan may be a real bad dude, but he's got complete control over his people. Whereas the other side, I mean, you've got Michonne. She wants to go out and do her own thing. Carl has the same plan a couple days before. Spencer, he wants to, start a coup of one until Father Gabriel gives him a verbal bitch slap. And then you've got Rosita wanting to basically do the Carl and Michonne plan like the next week. So everyone's on their own page here, and that's the problem.
Yeah, shouldn't everybody sort of like work together and have one plan instead of like 5 or 6 different people all trying different plans to kill Negan?
Yeah, exactly. And, it keeps coming back to Abraham left a legacy of like, they have the numbers. And, when you think about that in a Survivor, again, it's like there's one controlling alliance all voting together. And then you've got like the other people and like one vote here, one vote there. Like they don't talk. If they were to all talk and get on the same page and maybe, find some other people, this might be a fight. But until
then the chatter could get picked up.
Yeah, well, right. And that's the danger. And then you saw, right, people have codes in Latin and stuff. Spencer knows Latin. Maybe that's the next step. Maybe we need to start. Does Negan know Latin? I doubt it. Does Fat Joey? Let's start trying that out. Maybe that's the code we need.
Well, the Latin thing was a Deanna thing. That was like she was writing out her maps. That was in the Walking Dead story sync tonight. They were showing that Deanna used to like write in Latin on her plans that she was making.
Well, if it was in the story sync, Rob, I imagine we'll see it again. It's
canon. Then it's canon. All right. So many different things to check in on. Just one other note with Sherry and Dwight. I mean, where do you think the story ends with her? Does she run off with Dwight? Does she get caught for trying to help out Daryl? That'd be my prediction. She gets busted. Daryl is gone. That they blame her, and then that's what sort of like snaps Dwight out of it, where then he has to like sort of like that's what flips him.
I could see it. I could see it going that way. Yeah, I think the interesting thing, like I said, Negan has complete control over there, but under the surface, it's kind of the iceberg control, right? Where there's something underneath and some simmerings of unrest. And obviously Mark can't love him. We know Dwight doesn't love him. I mean, he's not even though Fat Joey seems very loyal, he likes to make fun of him. I mean, he's not like the kind of leader that anyone like if the fix was in and the uprising began, you wouldn't think a lot of people would be willing to die for him if they were going against fellow saviors. The trick is, how do you begin to flip these saviors? And yeah, I think Dwight is maybe the most interesting case, and that's probably why we spend so much time with him, is because here's a guy who, not only has Negan literally burned him and figuratively burned him, and now he's just kind of kicking him while he's down. I mean, he's got jokes. He's making out with his wife in front of him. At what point does Dwight snap? I think that's a very interesting question. And I think
he's up all night watching TV.
Yeah, and when we finally, he's up all night, right? He's not thinking
watching
clearly.
Who's the Boss? Yeah,
too much Tony Danza, and before you know it, I think that's the point at which we, people are wondering like, how long are we gonna have to deal with Negan just having his foot on our favorite characters' throats? I think the moment you see Dwight really start to act on his, hesitations, that to me seems like a turning point for sure.
Okay, what is your threat level of Negan babysitting Judith, the best baby in the entire world, who even when Negan is holding her, still doesn't cry?
Yeah, how about that? I mean, she's like falling asleep on his, sadistic, sociopathic chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at Negan. He has a way with kids.
How about that? Yeah, I don't know what this is about. I don't know if maybe he's just feeling wistful, or I don't know, but yeah, he seemed to really enjoy the porch and the lemonade and the kids and the whole shebang. So,
yeah,
it's very interesting, right? It's definitely like a turn for this character. Like we haven't seen this human side of him yet. He's been just this larger than life, cartoon basically, and now here we see a side of a guy who, and maybe it speaks to the old adage, it's lonely at the top, right? Where when you make all the calls and you're the only guy in control, that really you're lonely when it gets down to it. Everyone is beneath you. So maybe Carl as an outsider and this baby and represents like a break for him, like something he can just divert his attention with for a little bit. On the other hand, it could just be when Rick gets back, he's gonna play some cruel game or something. That's the other possibility.
Certainly a possibility. Let me read you an email that was a really great email that we got. I normally I would save this for the feedback show, but it's really interesting. Of course, you can email us twd@postshowrecaps.com or postshowrecaps.com/voicemail. This comes from one of our listeners, Lauren from Massachusetts, who says, "Holy crap. Did you guys slowly die inside as Negan held Judith and kissed her forehead? We know he wants a baby because of the pregnancy test from a previous episode. I bet he's going to try to take Judith." And we have no comic data to answer our questions either about this. So I'm really upset. This is why Carl just needed to stay in the house, damn it. Do you think that going back to when Sherry was at the doctor's office getting the pregnancy test, she is not pregnant to Negan? Do you think that this speaks to that Negan potentially is infertile and that maybe he might want baby Judith?
Well, I don't know if it
That's
speaks
his
to the
heir.
I don't know if it speaks to the fact that he's infertile, but I think it's an interesting point. And again, I can't help but think, there's never been someone who's managed to amalgamate tons of control and power in their lifetime who then didn't look for how is this stability going to last past me. I mean, that's what an emperor does, is they look to maintain the empire for the duration. And I think it would be interesting if he decided to take the baby and try to groom it in his image. That's not off the table for me.
Okay. All right. So that's interesting. So then let's talk about some of the other storylines going back. And, it all circles back to Negan. We saw Michonne. We opened up the episode on Michonne. She's got a plan. She made a roadblock of walkers. A little surprised that the woman just didn't just barrel through that. You would think that, what do you think? You can get through a pile of walkers like that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess she wasn't in like the Jeep. Like she seemed to be in like maybe like a Honda Accord or something. So I don't know if it has necessarily the horsepower that she needed in that moment. But yeah, I mean, you'd think you'd take the chance. It smells like an obvious trap.
Yes, you think so. And really, like, I know we're sort of like the camera is like really like close on that woman's face, and then Michonne sneaks into frame and like has a gun. I don't know necessarily how you execute that move in the real life version of like how did Michonne get so close to that woman by sneaking up on her?
Yeah, and she wasn't exactly being quiet. Like she was whistling the whole time. She's channeling Omar in The Wire with that Farmer in the Dell cover.
Yeah, so there's Michonne, and she wants to take me to Negan, but perhaps could this be a fool's errand if Michonne is going to make this woman drive her in and take Michonne to Sanctuary when Negan is at Alexandria?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? Because this seems to be the moment, like the cat is gone and mice seem to be making moves. I mean, you've got Sherry over there, and she's slipping notes, passing notes in class while the teacher's back is turned. And then, you've got this situation now where Michonne is making moves. And then Jesus, what's Jesus up to? It looked like he was on the roof of the truck. And then that last shot, he wasn't on the roof of the truck. So is he still behind? And I'm wondering if maybe he's going to be sneaking around with Negan gone. And that, to me, speaks to maybe why people don't turn on Negan. Like, a lot of these people, they've got brute force and they've got muscle, but do they really have anyone with any kind of sense of direction without Negan?
No.
And especially the guys he keeps closest to him.
Fat Joey.
Yeah, the Fat Joeys of the world. Is there any scenario without Negan where their lot in life goes up? I just don't see it. I think even if they get picked on a little bit, life is infinitely better with Negan in their lives than it ever was before. So that's why it's hard to like flip these guys, right?
Yeah, it really is pretty wild to imagine how the Saviors would operate without Negan. Just in terms of, let's just plant the flag on the Jesus stuff. I thought that Jesus is now in the truck. You think that Jesus jumped off and is still at the sanctuary?
No, Kelly Lynch in the chat just pointed out that there was a hatch on the truck that I missed. So I like that. I didn't catch the hatch, but if there's a hatch, then certainly that makes the most sense.
Yes, then Negan can be Jesus can be wandering around in Alexandria at that point. All right, so let's talk about what's going on with Rick and Aaron. And they need to, they have a deadline. They need to bring some stuff back or Negan's going to be mad. And they have basically one day to do it on this run. And they find a house that says, stay out. And then they find like a big poster, which says like, I'm going to shoot you if you can read this, and I didn't shoot you yet. I'm probably dead, but don't take any of my supplies or anything like that. And apparently there's like a house that's like in a lagoon.
Yeah, that was odd. It's like a houseboat without the boat.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but now it's a little bit of a challenge now to go and row the boat through the Walker moat to get there.
Yeah, and this is why this whole thing sucks. And even if Rick says, well, at least we're alive, like it's going to get old quick. You're risking your life for supplies that you're just going to turn around and hand off to some grunt who's just going to like, grab it and, walk it over to some truck, and you're never going to see it again. And that's going to get old very, very fast. I mean, the kingdom's putting up with it pretty good. But even there, I mean, they've probably been doing it for a while, and you're still seeing guys grumbling about it. So it's not an ideal situation. And I think the more you have to work and the harder you have to look, and the more you have to expose yourself to find stuff for other people, and they don't even let you have guns, this is going to get real. They're going to get sick of this fast.
Yeah. The good thing is that it'll probably look pretty cool next week when Rick and Aaron try to cross the Walker moat.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, the walkers is all they have to worry about because, I mean, who knows if there's snakes or what else in there?
Snakes? Wow.
Yeah,
Boy.
wouldn't that be a real twist for this show? It's like, we always worry about the zombies. Like,
Yeah.
whew, we got through, and then some kind of like water thing comes up and just right on the ankle.
Yeah. Wow.
Didn't see that coming.
You did not see that coming. So then also we had this week where Spencer and Father Gabriel, things have gone really bad for Spencer and his character. Where we watch him with Father Gabriel and say, wow, Father Gabriel is so much more awesome than Spencer.
Well, Rob, you were never on the Father Gabriel bandwagon early, but I feel like I mostly was. So, no, I love it. Father Gabriel's the man. Spencer, he turned him around, it seems like. Spencer's now like, all right, well, this is the way it is, so this is the way it is, and let's just do it. No one's on Team Spencer. If we held an election right now, the only vote I'd get would be me, so fair enough. Let's do it. And Father Gabriel seems to be the one that made him finally realize that. So good on Father Gabriel.
Yeah, now, I didn't really understand what was going on. So Father Gabriel says, okay, that's it. I don't want to be in a car with you. Let me out. So I'll walk home. It seems like a pretty dangerous thing to do. And so then
Badass now.
I guess so. And then Spencer just like runs off into the woods. And he runs off into the woods, and we have a walker, which is like set up on a perch with a crossbow. Alex, could you help me make sense of what's going on here?
So I felt like maybe he knew about that spot. Like maybe that was a spot that Deanna at one point had. I mean, was the Latin Deanna's at one point? Like, was the cache of stuff? Like, did that note originally come from her, or was that just like?
How? I mean, Father Gabriel at a totally random spot is like, let me out of the car. It just happened to be where one of Spencer and Deanna's hiding spots are.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's one of two things. Well, definitely the reason Spencer gets out of the car is Father Gabriel says that thing, and he's like, "I'm going to show you. I'll prove something to you right now." That's really the motivating factor for me. But then one of two things: either he hears a walker and he's just like, "I'm not coming back without something," and he goes out to investigate the noise, or the other situation, which is like it suddenly dawned on him they weren't far from an old like cache that Deanna had once had. And he remembered that, like, oh, there's some stuff over there. There happened to be a guy that, I don't know,
had the note.
We forgot about? I don't know.
Like, who was that guy? I mean, and he was sort of like a heavy guy. So I don't know if that was like, oh, he must have food. I don't understand anything that was going. Maybe the chat room can help me make sense of what was supposed to be going on in that scene of who's going on. But the fact that the guy had a note that was in Latin, and then that's like the whole Spencer Deanna thing is Latin. Why would somebody have a note in Latin that wasn't related to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a coincidence. This is probably a guy who just happened to be using Latin as his code, maybe had a couple other people who were in on it, and Spencer's lucky in that his congresswoman mother made him take Latin.
I guess so.
Probably the most likely outcome scenario.
I guess so. So then we also had at the end of the episode, so he ends up finding, all these canned goods, and he ends up bringing them back. And then he says, what are you going to do with those things? And he says that he almost makes it sound like that he's not just going to give it to them, but was there more to that plan? Was he like going to poison them?
Oh, I didn't get that. I just felt like this is, fresh start Spencer. Like, Father Gabriel made him realize that he's the only one who feels the way he does, that even Gabriel's is acting out, braver than him right now. And he's like, all right, maybe I need to re-examine this whole thing and try to approach this from a new way. And, not for nothing, but maybe he's finally realized what we all have known forever, which is that no matter what he thinks, he's not going to be better at this thing than Rick if he tried to take charge. He's just not. So maybe he finally woke up and smelled that coffee.
Yeah. Katie Beth in the chat says maybe he's going to keep some of it. Was that that's the Spencer plan of like, I'll give some of it to them and then also keep some for myself?
Well, I mean, Rosita still thinks he has a truck somewhere with some kind of getaway supply. I wonder if that's possible. Like every time he finds a thing of cans, like one for them, one for me, he like doles out before he gets home. So not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Rosita and her plan that she gets Eugene to make her that one bullet that she needs for that gun. Chekhov's one bullet we have
just
here.
Just
one bullet. That's all she needs. Eugene can't talk her out of it. She really dresses down Eugene, too.
Yeah, right? That's not how I get people to do favors for me, but it seems to
work.
Cool. So.
Not cool, Rosita. I did not appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, and she burned her bridge with him a little bit. Like, yeah, she really put her foot down on this bullet. What happens if she misses the shot? And now she needs another, and now she's hurt his feelings. Like, you didn't think that one through.
And is it a lot harder to make 6 bullets than it is to make 1 bullet?
I got to imagine just like the amount of metal required. I mean, the stuff she was bringing back was like brushed nickel colanders and stuff. Like that's really thin metal. Once you actually melt that down, that's not a lot of like base material to work with, right? And a bullet has to be solid. I mean, that's actually, for a small thing, it's actually quite a bit of metal, I think, that has to go into some kind of cast mold there.
Okay. So,
as someone who knows absolutely nothing about metallurgy.
Yeah. Okay. And how about Eugene doesn't accept Rosita's apology? He says it's just a flea circus.
Yeah, that's your truth. You know it is. I know it is. Let's just resume awkward silence. Thank you.
Yeah, he doesn't want to even give her the chance. Is Rosita going to freeze up like Carl and not take the shot?
If she has the opportunity to take the shot, I feel like she probably is gonna like take the shot and miss and then get tackled or something.
Get tackled. That sounds about right.
Like the fail of the coup attempt, the failed assassination.
Are you shipping Negan and Olivia? Olivia.
No, not at all. Poor Olivia having to deal with this guy. You can tell Olivia's never had to deal with a guy like this ever. And I'm not saying like, a guy like Negan, because obviously there's no one like Negan, but I just mean like just a scumbag. Like she probably lived in normal, like kind of America where she just went about her life and just interacted with the people she wanted to and had kind of a nice thing going. And then the zombie apocalypse comes and everything's different. And she found a nice spot and she had a good like niche as the caretaker of the supplies. And then this guy is just like something from another planet to her, I think. Like there's nothing like this that I think she's ever seen. So I feel for her.
But wouldn't it have been an interesting twist if at the point that Negan is like, I'm like 50% more into you right now. And she said, well, it is hard to meet people right now.
Just takes off the glasses and throws back the hair.
Yes.
They start playing that music from like the slow motion pool scene.
Yeah, nobody's really showed me a lot of attention here in Alexandria. It's sort of like that Tobin was the last eligible guy here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Negan has just creeped her right the F out, to be perfectly honest. I don't think she can stomach that.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the questions that was on the Walking Dead story sync of, is Sherry into Negan at all? When she's like saying, is that totally a facade or is there some part of her that likes Negan?
I think the part of her that likes Negan is the part of her that wants to keep Dwight alive. I think she recognizes the situation as very tenuous, probably even more so than Dwight does, in that they escaped and they got away. And then they chose to come back tails between their legs and just like offer themselves back up. And I think, Negan probably doesn't have tons of patience for Dwight, even though he's using Dwight as like a number two, so to speak. I think he would actually probably be fine just killing Dwight and replacing him with Daryl. And I don't know that Negan would like miss a beat. Like he may even be grooming Daryl for just that in case he worries about Dwight down the stretch. So I think that, Sherry is aware of the fact she needs to kind of like work overtime given their position to try to keep Negan from just like haphazardly axing Dwight, because what does he need him for? To be perfectly honest, he's loyal, but so is everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting to me in terms of Negan's wives, if any of them are actually into Negan, because Jeffrey Dean Morgan, a handsome man, a powerful man, he's sort of like the head honcho around there. I mean, I feel like he has a lot going on.
Yeah, I would assume it's probably not outside the realm of possibility that maybe one or two there. Certainly, he says he offers everyone a choice. And I could imagine like there may be a scenario where if you had nothing and you were scrounging for food and you were starving and having to fight off zombies everywhere you go, and then you find the saviors and Negan offers you this sweet room and this cocktail dress and, all the food and whatever you could want. I mean, that's a pretty tempting offer in many ways, but, the guy's handsome, Rob, but I mean, you get the scene. I mean, you get the feeling from the room. You really get the vibe that, and especially after he leaves the room and everyone goes to comfort Amber, right? Is that, his personality. I mean, his just like the way he carries himself really just has everyone trembling with fear.
Yeah. All right. Well, that I am kind of fascinated about what goes on at the sanctuary, I have to say.
Yeah, no, I think it's very interesting because I think the first impression that we get from these guys is what the hilltop tells us. Is that's all we have to go on is like, oh, they're monsters, they're brutes, they just kill without warning and take. And the more we learn, it's like the more we begin to uncover a bit of method to the madness, if you will, even if it doesn't necessarily follow like the logic of our world. You begin to see how in a world where there was no rules and no order, how Negan built something out of nothing, and even if it works because of its barbarism in many ways, it's like the only thing that seems to actually work. So I think it's interesting.
It's effective.
It is effective.
Anything else you want to touch on before we start to get into some questions here about tonight's episode?
Just really interested in this whole Negan and Carl relationship going forward, and kind of how Rick is going to factor into it. Like, what's Rick's response going to be when he comes home and sees Negan sipping lemonade with his baby on the porch? Like, I'm very interested in seeing where that all goes.
Well, what's Negan's response going to be like when Rick shows up? Like, we got to think that
Howdy,
Rick
neighbor.
is going to be understandably upset about the whole thing, but is Negan going to be like, oh, Rick, we've got to have a talk about your boy. Boy, this kid, he really, you owe me one. Like, is it going to be some sort of like, I'm imagining like, some sort of like parent to parent type conference of, hey, I caught your kid, drinking in my basement. Can you believe that? And Negan did give Carl a beer tonight. But I mean, is it that going to be the tone? Is it going to be now, hey, Rick, now watch this. I have to make an example out of one of your kids.
I think it'd be interesting to see if he does like the King Solomon thing where, Rick comes back and he's like, look, Rick, Carl, he was out of line. You didn't even tell me about this baby. I thought we were supposed to have an open door policy, full disclosure. You're keeping secrets. That makes me worried. That makes me wonder what other secrets you might be keeping. So I'm sorry, Rick, but you have to pick one kid to keep. And I'm taking the other one forever. I could see him do that. I could definitely see it.
Pick a kid. Wow.
Isn't that tough? Like, he loves these games, like these mind games with Rick. Like, that would be another one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's a joker for a new world.
Yeah. All right. Well, in terms of this episode, yeah, there was definitely a lot of interesting stuff. I just wish we would have gotten, some more, things taken to completion in this episode. I understand that probably most of these, I'm hoping, are going to be addressed in the second part of this episode that feels like a two-part episode. I just thought it ended on such an like a weak, just for Negan, holding the baby. I don't know. I thought that it was sort of like a soft moment to end on, but I guess maybe I'm not terrified that Negan is going to kill Judith.
Yeah, but those eyes he made at it, Rob, at the baby, he made those sociopathic eyes, and I think that was supposed to give you chills.
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, as a parent of 2 small children, it's like, you know what? It's tough to find a babysitter. You know, if Negan wanted to come here and watch my kids for a couple hours, you know, sometimes you take what you can get, Alex.
Don't play this podcast for Nicole, please. Don't do that. Never do that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and get to some of these questions. Cabin Douche has a question for us. If Carl had only started singing Easy Street, he could have mind-effed Negan to death. What do you think of that?
Well, Negan does seem to be surprised by some of Carl's moves, and Carl definitely leaves an impression on him. I think if Carl were to, have some kind of some kind of move that implies telepathic powers, I think Negan would have to respect it.
I have to say also, Walking Dead producers really lucked out that Rick was able to sing his kids a public domain song. That would have been like really expensive for them if Rick and Laura used to sing like something from the Beatles catalog.
Yeah, it was really nice of that. Yeah, they stayed away from anything, top 40 at the time, no Beyonce or anything.
Right. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. How about from Bradass TV? Says, I don't understand how Negan keeps any control. Most people seem to hate him, and he leaves himself wide open all the time. Any of his people who hate him could kill him really easily. I don't get why these people are so afraid of him.
I think it's that line between hate and fear, Rob. I think if fear overrides hate, then you're not going to move unless you're confident you have others backing you who feel the same way. And I think the problem with that is that the fear is so palatable that no one's willing to even have the conversation with their neighbor for fear that they would rat them out to Negan, and then it's time for the hot iron. So that's the thing, right? And that's, people will ask, like, how was it, Hitler was able to, keep people following him and dying for him in World War II? And it's kind of the same thing. It's like, people had nothing, and then they were given something, and then they, this guy, inspired them and told them to go out and, fight for a cause greater for themselves, and they really just kind of like warp the view on things, and you begin to kind of see how people fall into that kind of a mental trap where they think what they're doing isn't as bad as what it actually is because they've
just following orders.
Yeah, it's that same thing.
Yeah. Will Northrup says, "You're Carl. You're alone with Negan. You hold Lucille. Negan's back is turned. Did you do nothing?"
It's tough. I mean, that's the problem, though. It's like we think that Negan. I mean, it's hard to know if eliminating Negan solves the problem because there's a Simon out there, and Simon seems very capable, even if the rest of them were all dumb idiots.
But hold on, wasn't Carl's plan? I need to just go kill Negan.
Yeah, but I don't know
what changed. What changed?
Right. Well, I think for one, maybe he's beginning to be a little impressed by Negan. I would think.
Negan's a cool guy.
Are all those women really your wives? Like, that's the kind of question that I was like, like Carl's. I'm a little concerned about why he's intrigued there.
So you think we could get a scene later on where Carl says to Rick, like, "Why can't you be a cool dad like Negan?"
Oh, God, I hope not. What if he starts? Oh, man. Yeah, if this becomes the battle for Carl's heart, that would be very, very difficult indeed.
He lets me drink beer and look at his wife's boobs. What do you do, Dad?
You're not my real dad anymore.
I'm like Judith.
I'm getting in Negan's truck. I'll see you next weekend for visitation.
Dad. He goes, go on your runs. You're never here for me.
Yeah, that would be tough. I think that would be like Negan's ultimate thing, because like he would still have Rick under his control, but I think that would really break Rick, right? Maybe that is a goal of his. It's like, oh man, if I can turn his own kid against him, he's got a lot of time to just sit around.
Rick, your own kid doesn't even like you anymore. I killed a bunch of his friends, and he still wants to hang out with me.
We've seen from the whole thing they did at the Hilltop, they love the silly theatricality of the pranks. Like that would be an ultimate I'm just breaking your balls, to the nth degree. That would be one of those.
Hey, Carl, want some more dessert for dinner?
Yeah,
I've got pudding.
Yeah, no points on pudding for the rest of your life.
Yeah, not for you, Carl, with your freaky eye. Don't put it away.
That rat-ass, badass eye.
All right. Derek wants to know if you have a dart tournament with Negan and Carl, who wins?
Oh, Negan for sure. Carl seems to be leaning slightly to the left.
Yeah. What'd you think of that montage? I thought that got a little wacky of the like sort of like now we're in some sort of like comedy movie of Negan and Carl hanging out.
Yeah, cleaning up the house, playing darts. It's like good housekeeping time. Just kind of like, yeah, it was stepbrothers all over us. Like, finding places to do activities all about the house. And, yeah, just waiting for Rick to come back because Negan just wants to see. I think that look on Rick's face is worth all the money in the world right now to Negan. He just wants that look where he's like, "Oh, hey, buddy," and he's got the baby sleeping on his chest and he's sipping your lemonade. I think he's like he's living for that right now.
I think so.
Yes,
this is from a Win Galaxy 7 now, hopefully not the exploding one. When do you think that Rick finds out about the kingdom after only one episode there? I'm thinking that Morgan is going to bite the bullet this season. Oh, no, and hopefully not Rosita's bullet.
Yeah, well, I really hope not, because Morgan, to me, I mean, you've got Carol too, but, you know, there needs to be a link at some point. The kingdom, I do think, you know, there needs to be a meeting of the minds between Ezekiel and Rick. I think that is a given. I mean, these are two guys on the same side who don't know it yet. And I think once that meeting happens, again, that's another sign that we're beginning to see a shifting of the tides, because that, you know, I don't know, again, we don't know what the numbers the Hilltop have the kingdom have. And we don't exactly know how many Alexandrians there are, but we have to imagine that if you put those two groups together, we're maybe approaching what the Saviors can bring to the table. So, you know, it becomes interesting. And pooling resources, obviously, is going to be more valuable as well.
Mm-hmm. This is Jeremy H. says Negan is Carl's cool uncle. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that, right? Like, Carl doesn't have a lot of other... Who's Carl's other, like, father figure, so to speak? Like, he doesn't really have one.
Yeah.
No.
Daryl.
Right, and he's gone. So, like, you know, there's like a void there. And now Negan is coming into this equation, and you've got Rick now looking like, you know, less of a man. And I'm worried about Carl's mindset right now and how hard Negan is going to push to try to, like, convince this kid his dad sucks. I'm worried about that.
Yeah. I do like this subplot that this is all one big plan to make Carl tell his dad that he sucks and he's not a cool guy like Negan.
Yeah, well, he's going to take him up to the roof of, like, where the Saviors are, where that smokestack is, and be like, "Carl, one day all this can be yours."
Yeah. It's like when Mr. Belding's brother came and then got all the kids from Bayside thinking that he was the cool Belding brother and he was going to take all the kids on a rafting trip. But then he didn't show up.
Yeah. Well, Negan shows up. He shows up and he sticks around. He's got nothing to do. He's got a lot of free time. He makes his own hours, Rob.
Yeah. What other questions do you want to touch on?
Let's see. I guess what'd you think about that whole the furnace ritual? I mean, I know, like, we touched on it a little bit, but just kind of like the theatricality of it, like he's coming in with the bat and kind of like, you know, I hate to do this, but it has to be done.
Has to be done. Yeah, kind of gross. I mean, it was, you know,
a little piece of skin of
yeah, I kind of wish I didn't see that. You know, it was certainly interesting to see how it all played out. I mean, I could certainly understand what Amber was thinking, because Mark is, you know, a pretty hot guy. No pun intended.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, really, the biggest lingering question is, what was this other job that was offered where she was like, "No, we'll take half of Mark's face eaten away instead"?
Yeah, you gotta think.
How bad could that job be?
Yeah, well, I mean, what could it have been?
Yeah, like your mom just pulled landscaping duty. I don't know. Like,
yeah, no, not that. Anything but that. No.
Yeah, Mark's got a tough face. I'm sure he can handle it.
Yeah,
we'll take one for the team.
Yes. All right. And this is a question from Emily, who wanted to know, what song would you sing for Negan for payment?
Ooh, that's a tough call. Without a Lucille to my head, I don't know how quickly I can think up an answer to that. But, you know, given the context of the situation, and we would go public domain, we'd probably go something like Baba Black Sheep.
Baba Black Sheep. Okay. If it has to be public domain. Jason Burning says, F these commercials. It's not a 90-minute episode if you had 35 minutes of commercials.
Well, point taken. And Yeah, well, it's still reads as such on Wikipedia, I guess.
Yeah. And one last question from a scammer who says, is there any way Jesus gave Daryl the key in the match?
Ooh, I guess it's possible, but I like this theory that he dropped in the hatch. I feel like maybe Jesus can help in the nick of time. Maybe if like Rick's about to lose his temper at Negan, Jesus could show up and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Just, maybe he'll have pulled the gun or something and he can make Negan leave. I don't know how this is going to play out, but I think it's going to be very interesting. And I do feel like Jesus is over in the Alexandria area.
Yeah.
I buy that.
How long is Jesus up on top of the Winnebago?
It's a good question. And yeah, he got up there without anyone seeing him. And then it looked like as he's being pulled away by Dwight, Daryl looked up to the top.
Yeah, Daryl was
made me think he saw Jesus. And I'm like, Daryl's the only one who's going to see you up there? Did you like poke your head up and say hi?
He's observant. He's observant.
I mean, okay. I know Daryl's met him before, but you'd think anyone who saw movement up there would be like, ah.
Yeah, guy up there. You're like, you'd be on like the lookout for walkers and stuff. So next week, what's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
Do we get some terrible cliffhanger that we're all really mad about?
Probably.
Season,
I wouldn't bet against it.
Season 6, we definitely did have the cliffhanger with the leaving Alexandria and Mom. We did have a cliffhanger there. Season 5 mid-season, we did not have a cliffhanger. Beth got killed in the hospital, which the further we get away from that, it's really like, what were we doing in the hospital for 3 episodes in the mid-season? And I'm trying to think of what we did in the mid-season of season 4. I think that was when the governor died, mid-season of season 4.
Yeah, I think that's right. Right. And now we're on the road.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So a kickoff of Road to Terminus.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because obviously in one episode we can't have like, a triumphancy of any kind. So I don't think we're going to end on some kind of like major high note here. I mean, they're so down, and I mean, they've got a long way to rise before anything good can be spun of this situation that our, protagonists are in. So I think there's probably one of two outcomes. I think either we're looking at some kind of cliffhanger where we're waiting for more resolution, or unfortunately, the other outcome is probably worse, where Negan is making another example out of somebody.
Okay, we'll see. Any chance Negan dies here, you think, in this second half cliffhanger or first half of the cliffhanger?
No. I think that would be like laying out like a 7-course meal on the board and then giving people like 30 seconds to eat and being like, all right, dinner's over. Just taking it all away.
Sounds like something Negan would do. Right.
Yeah, that's something he would do, but,
yeah,
it's not something they would do with Negan.
All right. Alex, we got the feedback show coming up later on this week with Josh. Postshowrecaps.com/voicemail or TWD@postshowrecaps.com. Of course, you could leave your questions in the comments as well on the show page for this on postshowrecaps.com. What's the hashtag?
What do you think about Uncle Negan?
Uncle Negan. I love it. That's great. Uncle Negan is the best. Yeah, that's right, Dad. Uncle Negan is the best. Carl, take that back. You don't mean it. Yeah, he is the best, Dad. He lets me do whatever I want, and he cares about me.
Carl, we're going to be practical. We're going to go out on a run, and we're going to find water for everybody. No, Dad, I want to go joyriding in Negan's Camaro. This is fair.
Rick, you hear that? The kid, he loves Uncle Negan. What can I say?
Windows down, kid. Let's roll.
Oh, yes. So that'll be something. That'll be something if Carl ends up really getting, I guess, what do you call that? Stockholm syndrome. To Negan. Yeah.
Yeah, Daryl's fought it pretty successfully so far, it seems like. Although Negan doesn't think so. He's like, Daryl thinks he's holding it together, but that guy's breaking so fast.
He's breaking. All right, so that'll be very fun. And so look for the feedback show coming up midweek. Also, Josh Wigler is going to have your Westworld finale podcast coming up probably sometime in the next 24 to 36 hours. Be on the lookout for that coming up. And I will be actively trying to avoid Westworld spoilers until I finish watching the last 3 episodes. So excited about everything going on there. Alex Kidwell, are you pumped up for next week's finale?
Yeah, I'm really excited. And as I understand, is Josh going to be around to recap that?
Westworld will be done. Josh Wigler should be back with us. So it'll be very fun. It'll be all hands on deck for the season 7 mid-season finale.
Yeah, the triumvirate coming together. It'll be like if Gregory and Rick and Ezekiel all finally got together in the same room and made a plan.
Yes, very good. All right. So good stuff. Looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say in the comments. Take care. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.